Welcome to Category 5 Technology TV. This is episode number 497 for Wednesday, the 29th of March, 2017. Nice to see you. Tonight we've got a jam-packed, exciting show for you. I've got one of these I want to show you, and I just pushed a button on it and it did something on my computer. That's a hint. It's going to do all kinds of crazy awesome stuff. Also, we've got a RetroPie. We're going to be adding 128 gig MicroSD. Notice I said adding. We are going to be supplementing the file system, adding more space for our ROM games. Also, we've got a device that is going to allow you to record those that gameplay to microSD or to a USB flash drive with an absolutely autonomously from the need for a computer. You do not need a computer to use this device to capture your video.
That is cool.
It is really neat. Stick around. We're going to show you everything like that.
Right. Here's what's coming up in the Category 5.tv newsroom. A major blow for the fight for privacy. The U.S. Senate plans to allow ISPs to sell your browser history to advertisers. 30% of the UK jobs in the UK are at risk of robot takeover. Microsoft appears to be purposefully crippling OneDrive's performance on non-Windows systems such as Linux. FedEx is offering customers $5 US to enable Adobe Flash in their browsers. And an autonomous Uber car crash in Arizona has led the company to pull autonomous vehicles from the road. Stick around, the full details are coming up later in the show.
This is Category 5 Technology TV.
Our live recordings are trusted only to solid-state drives from Kingston Technology. Revive your computer with improved performance and reliability over traditional hard drives with Kingston SSDs.
Category 5.tv is a member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. cat5.tv/TPN and the International Association of Internet Broadcasters. cat5.tv/IAIB.
Welcome to Category 5. I'm your host, Robbie Ferguson, and would you help me welcome tonight Sasha Dermatis.
Hello.
And over here is Jeff Weston.
Hey.
And RetroPie.
Hi.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
I feel like we
we're
need
going to
like
have fun tonight.
An 80s type, like bloop 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 or something as a hi.
To go with
As
the
the RetroPie
RetroPie.
say hi.
Aw, yeah. Let's post that in.
Sure.
All right. You'll notice I can do camera switching tonight, Jeff.
Yes.
Just standing around, I'm just like hands behind my back, and I'm doing this kind of stuff.
It's
How does he do it?
How do you do
The
it? Robbie?
Wirecast guru figured this out. Remember when we did our March break special?
Yes.
I borrowed something from Sasha. Sasha, do you want to show the folks how you operate your teleprompter?
With this
that
handy dandy, what is it?
It's
like
a
keyboard,
Bluetooth
like
keyboard from Ricoh Magic. It's fantastic. So what I did is I programmed Telestream Wirecast to know that certain shots are, in fact, different keystrokes on a keyboard.
Okay.
And then programmed Sasha's remote to operate that. And then I was able to move around the building in Studio D here and change camera shots no matter where I was.
That's exciting.
So it worked. And so then we said, we need this.
We do.
This is great. So lo and behold, jumped on Amazon.
You know what's funny? I saw it for some reason. I thought it was a BlackBerry. Because of the keyboard.
Because it looks
was
just like a
over here. I'm like,
BlackBerry
oh, look at that, it's keyboard.
It kind of does.
Yeah, a little.
But here's the thing. It's strictly a keyboard. Sasha's also is an air mouse. So when you move it around, it controls the mouse on the screen, and you can accidentally click on stuff and things like that.
Good
So
times.
I wanted one that was strictly a keyboard. So
exciting.
this has, I guess, like all the letters of the alphabet plus all the numbers.
I haven't checked.
No, I'm saying,
We're missing an E.
well, how many? So we've got 26 characters in the alphabet, plus we've got 1 through 0, and so I can program any one of these keys to be any camera shot in Telestream Wirecast.
That's awesome.
And then all I have to do is just push the button on the keyboard, and it swaps.
Listen,
So
with this technology, don't go hog wild.
just be swapping camera
You're
angles
gonna give people
all the time.
like camera dizziness, back and forth, back and forth. Back.
Isn't that a cool idea, though, folks? It's completely wireless.
That's
so
awesome.
we can expand the studio. If we got wireless microphones like we had rented for our special,
Yes.
then we'd be able to actually move around and just switch with this at my side.
I like that.
That's kind of cool. So I ordered it. It was like $14, and it arrived very, very quickly.
That's it? 14?
Yeah, and I got this wonderful letter from the shipper.
Okay.
Dear Sir, Ma'am.
Sounds personal. Very personalized.
Dear Sir, Ma'am. How are you doing?
Uh-oh.
Thanks for your order, and thanks for Choice Us.
For Choice Us.
My friend. My friend. Hope everything going well. At the same time, we had send some gift together with this order. Just as gift. Hope you like it. Another hand, could you please give us a 5 stars feedback and 5 Satyrs product review if you feeling everything good? Thanks very much, sir, ma'am. Best wishes to all of your family.
Okay, that was just like spot on perfect.
So
I love this
it arrived.
person.
It arrived. It's here. It works fantastically well. I appreciated I appreciated everything.
That was
yes.
it. Yeah. What's your free gift?
Let me express my reply.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Dear ma'am, sir.
Ma'am, sir.
I is doing well. Very well, in fact, as you have provisioned my order, and it is all I had hoped for. Thanks to you for fulfilling my order, my lover. At the same time, I had received your gift. Together with this order, I accept this as just a gift, and not a bribe to provide you with a 5 Satyr feedback. I like it very much, and its price was just what I had hoped for in a gift. Free. Another hand, I could give you a 5 stars feedback and 5 Satyrs product review because the wireless keyboard I purchased from you is exactly what I desired in all things, and arrived quickly at my postal. I feel I should also add, because you asked such a question, I am feeling everything good. Thanks you for asking. Ma'am, sir, I wish your family well with warmest affections. I appreciate the kind words that were sent.
Everything about that was absolutely perfect.
That was good.
And to answer your question, here's the gift. So it is
Okay.
a fidget spinner, as it says on the packaging.
Okay.
And let's see here, because folks are wondering what it is. There you go.
Okay.
A fidget spinner. What do you expect? It's going to be a fidget spinner.
Oh.
It's one of those,
Fidgety
distractions at the office. You remember the little squish
Kind of
things?
like a star, though. Like,
Yeah, you want to throw it, don't you?
Yeah.
It spins so
This is
fast. How
good.
fast can you get that going, Sash? I
yeah.
appreciate the free gift.
That was awesome.
And I will give them a 5-star review because this thing works great.
Yes.
That's why I'll give a 5-star review, and I'll put it in our shop.
Right.
And I'm going to promote this to Telestream Wirecast community because this
that's
is a
amazing.
great little camera switcher.
That's good.
Fantastic.
I like it. You know what's funny? When I saw your spinner sitting there,
Yes.
I didn't realize it was a spinner. I'm just looking at it going, that is a really neat, some sort of electronic device with like buttons. I wonder if it's some sort of Bluetooth thing.
It's just a free gift.
It's yes,
Just
I
a
see
free
that.
gift. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Jeff, you and I built this RetroPie
Yes.
gaming system.
Yes.
RetroPie is an installation, a distribution of Linux that you can install on a Raspberry Pi.
Yes.
You can go back to episode number 442.
Was it that long ago?
Episode
442?
442 of Category 5 Technology TV, and our website is category5.tv, so just look for Category 5 Technology TV on there, and episode 442. And Jeff and I sat down, we built our first RetroPie. It was fantastic.
So good.
It gives us retro gaming on a Raspberry Pi, and it gives us the ability to use PS3 controllers.
Yes. Yeah.
How awesome. But one of the things that we've run into is that as we've added more and more ROMs, which are game rips basically, to the RetroPie, it gets full. And then you've got to delete some of the games in order to make room for other games, especially considering it can emulate the PlayStation 1.
Yes.
So the Sony PlayStation. The graphics are great. The gameplay is much more current. And it fills up really quickly because some games are, they're from DVDs. So some of them are going to be in the gigs.
Quite large.
Yeah. So when you've got a 32 gig micro SD card that came with our kit at cat5.tv/pi, you do run out of space once you've loaded up a bunch of games. So what we've set out to do tonight, I've got a Kingston 128 gig micro SD card.
It's good size.
This is a fantastic card. You're going to find these, actually, we have them on our website because we, you know, sure, when you buy stuff through our website, it supports the show. We appreciate that very, very much. But part of it also is that I want you to get the stuff that we recommend. These cards will read at up to 90 megabytes per second.
Really?
They will write at up to 80 megabytes per second.
That's fast.
Hear me there. These are very, very fast micro SD cards. So reading and writing, these are what we use in our cameras because we don't want any trouble when we're shooting 4K. We don't want any trouble when we're shooting 1080p or when we've got 360 video recording in real time. It's just not worth the risk. So we want really, really fast micro SD cards. So that's where these Kingston cards come in, and you can get one at cat5.tv/pi. You'll see all of the recommended hardware there. Then Kingston has also provided us with a Mobile Light G4.
Love that thing.
Micro SD card reader.
Love it.
It's great. It's a USB 3 card reader, so it works very, very quickly when you connect it to a computer. Now, the Raspberry Pi has only USB 2, so it's quite a bit slower than this card is capable of. But basically, here's the thing. This ain't going to be your bottleneck.
That's right.
Okay?
I use that all the time at home.
The card reader?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I do actually as well. I've got a couple of them that I keep on hand. I literally do. Okay? Because I use them all the time. They also support SD cards.
Yes.
But they support the micro SD without the need for an adapter. It goes right in there. So what we have set out to do tonight is a little bit different. Okay. Now, we had thought about, well, why don't we take that 32 gig card, image it to an image file, and then reburn it onto a 128 gig card, expand the file system, and then we've got a 128 gig card.
Makes sense. Most people would probably go that route.
That makes sense, for sure. I had some trouble with the card that we were using previously, so it didn't work out, and so I set out for a different option, and what we're going to do today is we're going to be adding this card as basically a second hard drive on that Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
So we're not going to replace the 32 gig card that has RetroPie on it. We're instead going to supplement it by adding this.
But there's only one micro slot in there.
Hence the Kingston card reader.
There we go.
Yes. Okay, so let's, now I've got SSH on my, now I'm on Linux, so I can just SSH into the Raspberry Pi. But the first thing that we want to do, as you can see, RetroPie is loaded, Emulation Station is running. So I want to actually exit any games that I have running right now. Got to fire up my controller. Notice that it's completely wireless. This is a Bluetooth controller, the PS3 controller, and Raspberry Pi has built-in Bluetooth. So I can reset and exit the game. And now, let's quit Emulation Station. And we're just going to let that kind of shut down. And it takes a moment to completely exit out. But what we're going to get is the IP address of our RetroPie system.
Okay.
Now, you'll notice that I've got a Ethernet cable here connected. This Ethernet cable, normally we wouldn't need that on a RetroPie because these are retro games. And, of course, retro games do not you typically use an internet connection, so it's unnecessary. So you can just go with power on the USB and HDMI for video output. But today, because we're going to be connecting into it, making some changes to the system and using SSH in order to access the Linux operating system, we're going to use that network cable to do that. Okay. So it saves me having to plug in a keyboard and plug in a mouse and do all this and that, and I can control everything over an SSH connection. So if it exits down there for us, takes a moment, through the magic of television, we can always speed this up.
I love that magic of television.
It's fantastic, and we're going to utilize it a lot tonight. Mm-hmm. Because we're going to be doing some crazy stuff.
You know what's funny? This whole time it's going on, I don't think Sasha's heard a word we've said.
What are you up to, Sash?
I'm fidget spinning.
Are you actually
Yeah, I'm trying to make it spin.
Spinner?
Well, I'm trying to make it spin without touching it.
Oh.
I'm seeing her out of the corner of my eye. She's just like mesmerized.
This is out. So we've got this exited now. So if we look at the screen, it says a little bit of information about it. Shows us that we have used 94% of our microSD card. That's no good. We're going to run out of space here.
Yep.
So the IP address today is 192.168.0.102. So I'm going to just clear out what I've got open on my screen here. Let's jump over to Linux, and I'm going to type SSH pi at 192.168.0.102, and that is, of course, the IP address as it appears on the screen once I've exited Emulation Station. My password is raspberry, and remember there's a P in the word raspberry. And there's the same screen that we see after having exited Emulation Station. Okay, so I'm going to jump into, now I'm already in my home folder. When I first log in, you'll see a folder called RetroPie and RetroPie Setup. I want to go into RetroPie, and then we're going to see a bunch of folders, and one of them is called ROMs. And when I go into ROMs, we can see that that has a ton of systems that are emulatable on the RetroPie.
Yes.
So that's where all the games are. They're inside that folder. So if we just move those off onto another drive and basically use the magic of Linux in order to allow the ROMs folder to, instead of being a folder, an actual other SD card, then we're going to free up all of that space. If I look at this, like I'm talking a lot here, Jeff. If I do DU, which is disk usage -H for human readable, look at the bottom there. I'm using currently 24 gigs on that card just for my ROMs, the games. So if I move this, I'm going to free 24 gigs on that 32 gig card. Think about that.
And just looking at the screen, I'm seeing right there, you've got SNES.
Oh, yeah.
And Nintendo 64. Those,
ooh, boy.
Like, those two are much larger sizes than the other ones.
Sure.
And I can only imagine how much bigger the PlayStation 1 is. Yeah,
well, we can actually find out if we go into, let's see, it's PSX, I believe. And if I do a DU-H in that folder, it shows that it's 17 gigs.
Wow.
Just in the PlayStation folder. Okay. Wow. So yes, definitely that's one of the heavy users for sure. Okay, so I've got my microSD and my microSD card reader. This is what we're going to now permanently use. Now you can use any microSD card reader that you want, but the key thing to remember with this particular one is, as I mentioned here, Jeff, it reads SD cards and microSD cards.
Right.
Do you have a card reader in your computer? If you do, you've probably noticed that you've got a cluster of empty drives in your computer. So if you're on Windows, you're going to see an F drive and a G and an H and an I. And as soon as you plug in an SD card, all of a sudden I comes to life.
Right.
If you plug in a different card, say a CF card, then your G drive comes to life, right? So each one is assigned a different drive. So it's important to remember, because this has two card readers in it, it's actually going to show as two drives.
Right.
But I'm only plugging in one card. So we need to remember that, hey, this is now going to be a two-drive device that we're inserting. So if I ever install on this and make changes and replace this card reader with one that only has one microSD,
it's going to have an impact.
It's going to change the drive assignment. So we're going to use what's called UUIDs tonight, and you're going to learn a little bit. This is not necessarily all Raspberry Pi. This is Linux 101. We're going to learn about mounting file systems and formatting file systems and copying files around and mount points and how to do all that, which is really a Linux thing. And I think one of the things that we hit is that when we set up RetroPie, we may not necessarily be Linux gurus. We may just be gamers that want to have a retro gaming system. Right. So I hope that tonight helps you out. I'm just going to plug this drive into the system. Before I do that, I want to show you on the screen, if I do an ls/dev/sd star, you'll see no such file or directory. And if I do fdisk-l, oh, I'm not super user. Let's become super user, sudo su. And then I enter, I don't even need to enter a password. Fantastic. Okay, fdisk-l, and you'll see I've got just these two partitions available to me, and these are both on the internal 32 gig card. All right? So theoretically, as soon as I plug this in, I'm going to see more drives.
Correct.
So let's do it. I'm just going to plug this into any one of the USB ports that are on the RetroPie. There we go. It's in. And so from above, it just kind of looks like that. I've just plugged it in right there. And here we go. Let's do the same thing. ls/dev/sd star. Now we see SDA, SDB, and SDB1. So we know that SDA is the full-sized SD card reader because there's no partition, it's not detecting a drive.
Right.
SDB is the microSD. We know that because we are seeing a partition there. SDB1 is the partition of that hard drive. So that SD card, which is showing as a hard drive. So fdisk-L now, you'll see that SDB1 is being detected and it shows as 116 gigs. So what we need to do is we need to, with that information, we need to now format that drive. So we've got dev/SDB1, okay? And if we do that directory listing, we can see that. So we need to format that. So we need to choose our file system, which I'm going to go with ext3. So we're going to type mkfs for make file system .ext3 and then /dev/SDB1. And that's going to format that to an ext3 file system, which I can say yes. And there's the magic of television zooming along tonight for us. I think this is going to go well. So now, once that's finished, Jeff, we're going to have this card completely formatted, completely blank, and ready to rock.
Good times.
Here it comes. Wait for it. And we're done. That's all there is to it. Now, that took, in real time, about, let's say, 20, 25 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so keep in mind, it's going to take you some time to format that drive. We sped it up through the magic of television, as we call it here at the studio. But for you, it's going to take a fair bit longer, especially for a 128 gig card. And because I'm doing it on the Raspberry Pi, it's a little bit slower. I could, if I wanted to, format that ext3 from another Linux computer that has USB 3, and it's going to be quite a bit more zippy. Okay, so we know the location of our ROMs, but first of all, we can see, okay, we've got the drive now, SDB1, we've formatted it, it's ready to rock, but our next step is that we've got to mount this thing so that we can start copying things. So we need to create a mount point, and I can call that /MNT/SDB1, but for your sake, I'm just going to call it whatever, and then that way you know that there's a differentiation. We're actually creating that as a mount point. So you see that, whatever, it's a folder. But we're going to mount our hard drive to that. So mount /dev/SDB1, and then the destination is /MNT/whatever. And now it's mounted, no errors. And if I type ls to the RetroPie folder in home, I'm going to see all the ROMs that are there. So these I need to actually start copying over from the built-in, like basically the internal SD card. I need to start copying those onto the new external SD card, which is completely blank. And we know that it's located at /MNT/whatever. We know that the ROMs on the internal card are in the home /RetroPie or /pi/RetroPie/ROMs. So in order to copy those over, now that I've mounted that, I can type CP-R for recursive and then P lowercase for preserve your permissions, and that preserves the ownership of the files, the actual permissions of the files. Don't forget, -R is a capital R, so that it gets all of the subfolders and files, and lowercase p to copy all the permissions so that you don't have a problem where, for some reason, after doing this, because we're root, you're going to lose access to those ROMs. And then if you're not a Linux guy, you might have some trouble.
So if you're not somebody who's, you know, up to date on all the Linuxiness of it, what happens if you use small r or a big P and you reverse them? Are you going to get an adverse effect?
Well, they're different. They're different commands. Okay. And off the top of my head, I don't even know what they are.
Okay, fair enough. So
capital R is recursive. Lowercase p is preserve your permissions and ownership.
Case sensitive people.
What is a lowercase r? What is an uppercase p? I don't know. I don't use those ones.
Fair enough. Okay.
Fair enough. You can look it up. Read the man pages. Okay, so the source is /home/pi/RetroPie/ROMs/ star for everything in that folder. Then our destination is, of course, /mnt/whatever. And hit enter. And moment of truth. How do we know if it's copying, Sasha? We can bring up another SSH terminal window.
Yes, we can.
We can do htop like we learned last week, but I can just SSH right into that system a second time. So I've got 2 windows now, and I can log in again. So let's do that. And then I can navigate to the mount point where I'm copying to my destination, and let's just see. Is stuff landing there? And there we go. So we're starting to see, notice that everything is owned by Pi, where it's applicable. There is a symlink there. I can see that if I type du-h, which we already learned, we can see that 18 megs is currently being used. So it is making progress. It's copying away, and we can keep doing that du-h if we want to see the progress. Remove the .h if you're not seeing it increase past 18. It might be that it's moving slowly. So removing the -h will stop rounding, and you'll get the actual full length, how many bytes have been used.
All right.
Okay. So our copy process is complete. It took some time because there's a lot of data there. But again, we've sped things up for you tonight. This is a live show, but I did kind of pre-do some of this stuff beforehand up to this point. So from here on in, everything that you see is in real time. Everything is live. And we're going to actually take that SD card now, which we formatted. We have copied all of the ROMs too, and notice that we copied them. Sasha, last week we had a problem with our MicroSD card when we tried this very feature. And just guess why we're doing a copy routine here instead of a move routine. Referring back to episode number 476. What was it? 496, pardon me.
In case you have a corrupted situation.
Could happen.
Yeah.
Could happen,
You want
folks.
to copy. You don't want to move.
Imagine if you moved all your files over, and we see this all the time in business where somebody says, oh, I moved all my stuff. They call it a backup, but no, they moved all their files, their photos and everything onto this new external hard drive that they bought, and then they dropped it. And then it's gone.
Yeah.
In our case, if we had moved all these ROMs over to that bad SD card last week, then we would have lost those ROMs. So what I've done instead is we've copied recursively with maintaining the permissions. So now we have a copy on the original card and on this new external card as well. So we're going to jump. You have a question?
I was actually going to say, one of the things I love about the show is we have the chat room.
Yes.
I asked the question about the big P, big R, little r.
Yeah, okay, what do we got?
It's a Dr. Zeus book or something.
Okay.
So Sparkly Balls helped us out.
Thanks, buddy.
Little r is copy recursively, non-directories as files. Big R is copy directories recursively. Big P is append the source path to directory.
That's not what we wanted.
No. And small p is preserve file attributes if possible.
There you go.
There you go.
So,
educating you on the fly.
Linux is case sensitive, and you're going to find that, you notice when we go into cd /home/pi/RetroPie with a capital R and a capital P, if I left off those caps, it's going to say that folder doesn't exist.
Right.
Because you can have 2 different folders that have exactly the same name but different capitalizations.
Been there, done that. It was a pain in the butt to fix that mistake.
Keep that in mind. Thank you for helping us out there, Sparkly Balls. Okay, so jumping back to our SSH terminal window here. So now we're going to, in fact, we've got 2 copies, as I was saying. So I'm just going to quickly prepare this. We're going to remount this because I actually did that step a little before the show. So mount SD B1 to mount whatever. Okay, so now we are right back where we started. Our copy is complete. Do you want to confirm that your copy is complete? Do we want to make absolutely certain that it matches? We can actually do something like this. We can do well, currently I'm in /home/pi/RetroPie/ROM, so I can do du-h. You can see 24 gigs. That's not good enough for me. I want to do just du, and we've got 243.18700/mnt/ and we're going to go into whatever, and I'm going to go du. So 8700. So it's a little bit off, and that could be because of various different things. But we can see that everything is there. It's 24 gigs. There could have been like hidden little system things or whatever, but I guarantee you everything's there. So we know that the files are there. We've got 24 gigs in our /MNT/whatever. So now our final step, if you can believe this. Sasha, you ready?
Yes.
Our final step is to now turn that drive, our new drive, into our ROMs folder. How the heck do we do that?
How do we do that, Robbie?
Yeah. We learned about mounting because we created a mount point called /MNT/whatever, and we mounted to that. So we know through that we can mount anything, any other drive to a folder. So if I go cd ... and then I type umount, remember I am super user right now, umount whatever, that means unmount whatever. Now if I do ls whatever, it's an empty folder. What? Because I unmounted it. If I remount it, or mount it again, and do the same thing, ls whatever, you'll see everything's there. So then umount whatever, and it's gone. Okay, so nothing has been deleted. It's just that I've turned off that mount point. It's now a folder. It's empty, and there's nothing to it. So there's nothing there because nothing's mounted on it. And you can confirm these things by typing mount, and it will show you all the things that are currently mounted.
Now, if your system has to reset, will it be unmounted? Like, will those changes be undone? So that
we're going to learn how to make it permanent here.
Oh, perfect.
So
I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah, a little bit, and that's fine. Of course, we're going to learn how to make this a permanent thing. Okay, I just want to make sure that I have. Yeah. Okay. All right. I just saw when I typed mount that there was something that one of my tests was still mounted, and I just fixed that. You may have caught that. So dev/SDB1 is just the media/USB. Okay, so now I have gone to /home/pi/RetroPie, and if I do ls ROMs, there's my ROMs in the internal SD card. So do I want to delete that? No, remember we're talking about redundancy here, okay? So we're going to move it instead. We're going to move ROMs to ROMs dash, let's call it BAK for backup, okay? So now, if I booted up my RetroPie, it's going to crash out because there's no ROMs folder. It's gone. So I need to make a folder called ROMs.
Simple enough.
Do an ls-li LAH, and you'll see that it's owned by root, so I need to chown pi : pi ROMs. Okay, so now everything looks right. Okay. If I do an ls ROMs, you'll see it's empty. If I do ls ROMs back, you see all my stuff is there. So next thing we want to do is enter our ROMs folder. Okay, and we're going to type CHATTR+I, enter. And let's add a dot at the end of that for the current folder. Now, ls, nothing has changed. What has changed? If I touch something, touch test. Permission denied. Okay? So what I just did with the chatter command is I told it that if this is not mounted right now, don't allow anything to accidentally get written to this folder. Because if you do, then you're no longer going to be able to mount your external drive. So if I booted it up and I had that unplugged for some reason and then accidentally threw some ROMs on there, then I would lose my mount point because it's now a folder with recursive files and I can't mount it anymore. So chatter allows me to block the ability to accidentally put anything in this folder. If I try to do something, if I try to do anything, test, watch what happens when I try to write that file. Error writing, permission denied, even though I am super user. Okay, so that's a great way, a great thing to do. So to give you an idea what I'm actually going to do, so I've created this new folder called ROMs. Okay, ROMs back is just a backup so that we can make sure everything works before we delete it. Now, remember our mount command, /dev/SDB1, and then we're going to do this instead. Home, pi, RetroPie. Make sure you use the whole path, okay? We're not just going to do ROMs. ROMs, enter. Now, ls ROMs, all of our ROMs are there, but they are on SDB, that external hard drive. SDB1 on that. It's mounted to that.
Okay.
Okay. So a couple of advantages to this. First of all, unlimited space, because we can just add a bigger card if we wanted to. Secondary, we can unplug we can turn off the Raspberry Pi, unplug the card reader with the 128 gig card, plug it into our Linux laptop, and copy more ROMs to it. We don't need to use Samba. We don't need to do anything else. We can copy and manipulate the file system on a computer screen with the GUI if we want, and then just plug it back in, boot it up, and everything's there.
So the same process would work if, say, you've got a 128 gig card, and you say, you know what, I'd really rather just have a 500 gig external hard drive.
You can do that.
The exact same thing applies.
Exactly the same process to format it, to mount it, to prepare it, to copy the files. Everything is the same. You can have a 3 terabyte external hard drive plugged into that and do the exact same thing.
Unlimited power.
But the question that you raised already is, how can we make sure that this is persistent?
Yes.
Because right now I mounted it, but if I reboot, ROMs is now going to be just an empty folder that you can't write to.
Right.
So we're not going to be able to do anything with it. When we come back after this quick break, we're going to learn how we can actually make this a permanent mount point, so that when that is plugged in, when we turn on the RetroPie, it's going to automatically mount it in the right place, and we're going to start gaming from our 128 gig
So
card.
excited!
Stick around. We'll be right back.
Jeff Weston,
Yeah, man.
you're building a brand new, beautiful website,
What?
aren't you?
No. Am I?
Oh, you're a terrible actor.
What?
This is where acting comes into play.
Oh, I didn't know we were acting.
You're supposed to act.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, I'm building a really cool website. Are you building a really cool website? You need hosting. One of the things about a hosting account is you don't want to have limitations put on your website.
It's true.
How much hard drive space do you have? How many email accounts? How many domains can point to it? Well, we've got an amazing deal for you. For a very limited time, cat5.tv/Dreamhost, for just $5 and a bit of change per month, you are going to get unlimited website hosting, unlimited email accounts on that hosting service. You are also going to receive a free domain name.
Ooh.
So your own .com,
Nice.
to put that amazing website that you've been working on
It's
on
true.
there. If you want to build a WordPress site, fine, sign up, cat5.tv/Dreamhost.
Just don't put Panama Papers on it.
Just don't do it. But hey, it's a great deal, folks. Best deal you're going to find. $5 and change per month. Go to cat5.tv/Dreamhost. This is Category 5 Technology TV. Welcome back. And tonight we are learning to expand our RetroPie gaming system by adding an extra SD card through an SD card reader. This is cool stuff, folks. We're adding to our 32 gig system another 128 gigs to place all our ROMs on. So
times.
before the break, we learned how to set all that up, how to mount it as a temporary test, how to create all the mount points, and how to make it so that you don't accidentally write to that mount point. The question came up in the chat room just as we were on break there. What would happen if you didn't move the ROMs to ROMs-back, and you tried to mount to it ROMs? And the answer is, and this is why we use Chatter just before the break, is if the folder that you're trying to mount to has anything in it, if it is anything other than a completely empty folder, mounting will fail. Okay? I can demonstrate that by simply doing mount/dev/sdb1 ROMs-back. And that's a bad example because it's the same files.
Right.
So it's going to look exactly the same. And in fact, it may actually let you do that, but then, see, you get a real problem. So if it does, it let me do that. If it does let you do that, you can run into this problem where you're not sure which drive you're writing to.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So perhaps maybe Linux now, back when I started with Linux, it wouldn't even allow it. Now it looks like it did take. So the answer then has to be adapted to say, okay, you could probably mount it, but then how do you know which folder you're looking at? So when you copy files over and ROMs over, then how do you know that it's to the right card? Right. And you don't lose access to those and get all confused. And I had that happen when I was younger, learning Linux, and I was writing a bunch of stuff to a mount point and didn't realize that it wasn't mounted. And so I lost all those files because I didn't understand the difference between the mount point and the mounted file system. So that's pretty brutal. So for us now, we're going to learn how to make this a persistent or permanent change, Jeff. So I'm going to unmount that. So you mount ROMs. So now ROMs is empty again, okay? And if I type mount, you'll see that dev/SDB1 is, again, just USB 0. So we need to know what's called the UUID. I alluded to this a little bit earlier. The UUID is an identifiable, it's like a fingerprint for this SD card. It's
so UU is unique user?
Sure,
unique
let's take
user
it.
ID?
Unique user ID.
Oh, okay.
Let's go with that. I have no idea what it stands for,
Just
Jeff.
UUID.
But that sounds good.
All right.
Unique Umbrella Interface Daemon.
Sounds painful.
It's probably unique user. I don't know. So anyways, it is a unique identifier for that particular drive. If I take that card out and I plug it into a different card reader, my /dev/SDB will change.
Right.
That can mess up people. So then all of a sudden you can't mount things because it's not working, and then you realize, oh, my card is now SDA. So we don't use those dev assignments for permanently affixing the mount point. It was good for our tests and for doing our formatting and things like that. But for the permanent way, we're going to use the unique identifier so that it will always remain the same because the card's UUID will never change. So that's what we're going to do. I'll show you how to do it. Sound good? BLKID. BLKID is a command that tells you the UUIDs of all of your storage media on your computer. So we see a couple here. We know that these MMCBLK things are the 32 gig card. Those are the ones in the internal card reader. The external card reader shows up for us as SDB1. That's the partition. So the UUID for that is right here within the quotes. And if I highlight this, because I'm on SSH, it makes it super beautiful because I can copy and paste.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm on Linux, I'm on Ubuntu Mate, and I can highlight in a terminal window from the SSH session and copy the UUID. You may, hopefully you've got such a great setup and you can do it that way. Now that that's in my clipboard, I can type nano/etc/fs tab. That's our file system table. And now at the end of the file, we're going to add that drive, that partition, as a mount point, as a permanent mount to the file system tab. It's all going to make sense in just a second. UUID, all uppercase. Remember, things are case sensitive. Equals, no space, edit, paste. So UUID equals that. Space. Where do we want to put that? /home/pi/RetroPie with the caps where they go /ROMs. What is the file system type that we chose? ext3 space. What do we want to do? Defaults. How do we want to do it? 0.
Always a good time. Category 5.
And the last 0.
Should have seen that coming.
The last 0 says don't scan this thing at boot up. So if you reboot a bunch of times. Oh no, the first 0 says don't scan it. The second 0 is the order in which you're going to scan it if it does, which we're not doing. So 0 is fine. Okay, so it's got to be written like that. UUID equals, and then the UUID. The mount point is /home/pi/RetroPie/ROMs, and then the file system is ext3 in our case. It's whatever you format it to. And then defaults, and then 0, 0. Output with Control-O, Enter, and Control-X. If you get a file you can't save, error, then maybe you're not super user. Remember, I use sudo su to become super user. You'll see that I am logged in as root. Who am I? Root. Okay, so now ls/roms, nothing has changed. Mount-A. Remember, anytime you edit your FS tab, always do Mount-A as root before you reboot. You might be tempted to reboot to try it, make sure it worked. Well, then you're going to crash your whole system if it didn't. So it may hang up trying to mount. It may crash out completely because something's broken. Always do Mount-A first so that you can test that it's going to work. Hit Enter. No errors. What happens when I type ls space ROMs? Ready for the moment of truth, Sasha?
Yes.
And Enter.
You know, as I'm sitting here watching over your shoulder, I feel like I need to say, did you see the woman in the red dress?
What are we on about?
I feel like I'm watching a scene from The Matrix.
Oh.
All that code and just the way you work it through it. It's like, you just pull this stuff out. I'm watching, it's almost like on the screen, I'm seeing the way you're visually seeing all this happen. I'm like, man, this guy's good.
He is, eh?
I know.
I don't even pay these people. Goodness me.
You're very smart.
Well, you know what, Sasha? We had a practice run.
I'm benefiting in this episode because this is my pie, and I'm going to go home and play it.
This was Sasha's idea. She needed more space for more ROMs.
You know what a great feature would be, Robbie? Let's fix up my pie. Let's do this.
Let's do this. Okay, so let's do this. We know that has worked in that regard, but if I type mount, what do we see? /dev/SDB1 is on ROMs. See that at the very last entry here? Well, why does it say SDB1? We used the UUID because Daddy knows, child. That's how it works.
So, totally unrelated to this episode, why is it that every time when you look for something, the thing you're looking for is the very last thing on the list?
It's the last thing I did. It's the last mount. It's the last mount point that was added to the mounts.
Okay.
Yeah, the mounts table.
I've always wondered that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now I know.
Well, because you stop looking when you find it, Jeff.
Well, no, no, but it just all these episodes. It's all these like little basic fundamental questions that I don't even think about, and then I'm going, oh wait, why is it that this just happens that way? It's those little things in life
Deep
that I appreciate.
With Jeff Weston. Okay, so. Let's cat that file again, etc/fs tab. We know that our UUID works. Everything's good. And that, my friends, is the true moment of truth.
Reboot. Did you hear the live action of that?
What a good time.
Of reboot?
Yeah, you know the cartoon show? They're redoing it, but live action.
Reboot. I remember the name, but I can't picture it.
It was a cartoon
Somebody
show. I just saw that in the news today. I was like,
yeah?
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know how I feel about taking a CG show and making real people. Isn't?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember it. Okay. Once you said CG, I remember. Yeah, that was one of the earlier CG shows. Cool. Here we go. It's loading up Emulation Station. This is our RetroPie setup. Now we've got 2 SD cards, and if everything goes well, we're going to see games that are in our ROMs folder. Yeah. Okay, are we ready? Let's fire up our game controller.
So you shouldn't have to reconfigure your controller or any settings.
No, nothing like that.
It's all done.
It thinks that this hard drive is the ROM, this SD card or whatever you plugged in is the ROMs folder.
It's wonderful.
It doesn't know any better. I taught it what to do. Where do we want to go?
Atari.
Atari?
When do we want to do it?
Now.
Atari 2600. Let's see what you got in there. And where am I going, Sash? Okay, so we see a game list.
Montezuma's Revenge.
What is it called?
Montezuma's Revenge.
Montezuma's
Revenge.
That starts with an M, I take it.
Yes.
Been there.
On vacation?
Holy cow. D, E, F. Holy cow. How many Atari games do you have?
Many.
No wonder we need to add more space.
I know, right?
See, I'm glad
Atari games are huge.
I've ran out of space.
Not anymore.
I know.
Not now.
I know.
Like, Robbie, you want to do another episode?
Mondo Pong, Monster Size, Montezuma's Revenge. Is that the one?
Yes.
Go.
He's good.
Come on. Yeah! This looks awesome, Sasha.
Down the
ladder. How do you work it? Okay, there's my jump.
Yeah.
There's my controls. Okay. Oh, this is a ladder?
Yeah, you die easy. Jump to the rope. No!
Oh.
Other side.
Jump to the rope.
Down.
Okay.
Go back to the ladder. Go down the ladder.
Okay.
See this
go to the right. Right, and then jump to the rope. Okay, now jump to the other ladder.
Oh, okay. And I presume that the rolling skull is a bad guy.
It's a bad guy.
Okay.
Avoid the skull. Time your jump.
Yes! I made it.
Go get the key.
Oh, what's the key do?
That opens either door, right or left. You have to go all the way back.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I am serious.
I gotta get past the skull man again?
Serious as a
Oh! Oh,
No,
I turned into
but you still have the key because it's so nice to you, so you can just
Are you
go to
serious?
a door.
I have the key?
You have the key.
I still have the key.
It's good like that. That's why I like it.
Okay. So I just choose a door?
Yeah. Either or.
Oh, come on now.
You have to jump.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, come on now. I am thankful that I do not lose the key. Oh, great.
Okay.
More
Two
skull
skulls.
guys.
Avoid both of them.
Jump over me.
You're not avoiding
Oh,
them
come
well.
on. Oh, there's only one now.
Well,
is that
yeah.
all I have to do is just touch them and they disappear?
At some point, you're going to be done with this game. I think you can only die 5 times. How many?
Oh.
You're good. You're good at this. You got all the way to room 2.
Well, hey, for a first time, that's a lot of fun. Okay, so there we have it, folks.
On an off note, just like completely on. If anybody gets a dog or a pet or anything and it's female, can you please name it Pseudo Sue? I think it's hilarious. Please.
The final thing that we can do here, Sash?
Yeah.
The very, very final thing.
Not your child, though.
Let's connect.
Somebody's
not
gonna
your
do
kid. Not your kid. Okay. Let's connect again.
Okay.
And let's get into a RetroPie folder and RM-RF ROMs-back.
Did they change the logo there?
There we go. It's a Raspberry.
It's got a white bottom to it.
Look at that. And now, do you notice that ROM says root? But look at what happens if I look in it. Pi. Because it knows, because I used the P, the lowercase p. All right, so now I have deleted the backup version of the ROMs that we created. And we can see that that didn't make any changes to anything. Everything works exquisitely.
Good times.
Enjoy.
And
Did
now
you-
that Sasha has expanded hard drive room, she'll be taking a year hiatus from the show.
That's it.
right.
That's it. We've
She's going to be playing games.
We've
Okay.
lost Sasha. Sorry, I didn't realize that we didn't have the screen up. So that's all working. So we're in
Cool.
a Nintendo game now, and I can navigate just perfectly fine. Beautiful. Okay, so don't forget, episode number 442, if you're interested in building your own RetroPie system, you can get a kit at cat5.tv/pi, download the free software, find yourself some abandonware ROMs that are available for you, downloadable off the web, and make sure that it's legal in your area. Make sure that the ones you're downloading are not, it's abandonware. A lot of them, like, these are from 1980s kind of things, so sometimes they're available for free downloads. So, all right, there you have it. Thanks, everybody.
Wow.
I just have one question of everyone. There's an Atari game, and I can't remember the name of it, but I have so many Atari games, it's going to
Pitfall.
take me forever to go through it. It's not Pitfall.
What is it?
You're like a little tiny, almost like a chicken guy. You're like a tiny
Chicken
little,
guy.
almost like an egg, and you're just running across the screen, and there's like little valleys. They're just like V valleys, and sort of corresponding mountains. And you're just running and jumping, and you make a cute little noise. What's it called? Somebody's played this.
That's your challenge for the week,
What's
folks.
it called?
Comment below. Let Sasha know, and we'll mention it on the show next week. Sasha, it's time for the news. And if you'd like to take it away.
All right. Here are the stories we're covering this week in the Category 5.tv newsroom. A major blow in the fight for privacy. The U.S. Senate plans to allow ISPs to sell your browser history to advertisers. 30% of jobs in the UK are at risk of robot takeover. Microsoft appears to be purposefully crippling OneDrive's performance on non-Windows systems such as Linux. FedEx is offering customers $5 US to enable Adobe Flash in their browsers. And an autonomous Uber car crash in Arizona has led the company to pull autonomous vehicles from the road. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
Now here's another great way you can support the shows you love from the Category 5.tv network by shopping at Gearbest.
That's right, Jeff. cat5.tv/Gearbest. It's an online store for the geek streak in you.
Or the loved ones.
Well, of course. I mean, especially your loved ones, right? Because cat5.tv/Gearbest, quite frankly, has all of the greatest tech gifts that you could ever hope for at rock-bottom prices.
Do they have cell phones?
You betcha. Cat5.tv/Gearbest has a wide assortment of unlocked Android cell phones and tablets.
What about consumer electronics? Those make a great gift.
Absolutely. From high-tech watches to action cameras, headphones, even virtual reality headsets. Cat5.tv/Gearbest has you covered. They literally have it all, Jeff. literally.
Really?
It's like a superstore right from the comfort of your own chair at your computer through the interweb.
Yeah. There's no way they have it all.
It's true.
It's just a bunch of random electronics.
Test me.
What about clothes?
Yep. Both men and women, fashionable apparel at rock-bottom super-duper prices.
Kind of like this?
Well, look at this coat. What do you think? It's a slimming mock leather jacket.
I love it.
It's available for less than $30 plus free shipping at cat5.tv/gearbest.
Yeah, all right. You kind of got me there.
Wow. Any other questions for me, Jeff?
Now that the winter has passed, flying season. Do they have any good deals on, say, drone copters?
Oh my goodness! Well, check this out. Dude, they have everything. Check out over 500 various drones. And not only that, they're available marked down by about 30 to up to 63% off the regular price.
Love it. What's the website again?
Well, you're going to find Gearbest on our partners pages for any of your favorite Category 5 TV shows like New Every Day, Category 5 Technology TV, The Pixel Shadow. But of course, if you want to shop absolutely right now and you want to go straight to the site, all you have to do is visit cat5.tv/Gearbest.
See, that's easy. cat5.tv/Gearbest.
That's right. Happy shopping.
I'm Sasha Dermatis, and here are the top stories for the week of March 29th, 2017. The U.S. Senate has voted to kill privacy rules that would have prevented ISPs from selling your browser history under the fantastic logic that mobile operators aren't under the same restriction. The vote on Thursday broke along party lines, of course, and a decision to invoke the obscure Congressional Review Act of 1996 in agreeing to a congressional disapproval of the rules was passed 50 votes to 48. The rules had previously been approved by U.S. broadband watchdog, the FCC, and were due to take effect at the start of March. But new FCC Chair Ajit Pai, who originally voted against them, killed them off with a 2-to-1 vote just days before. The arguments for doing so have been mind-boggling. The senator who introduced the resolution, Jeff Flake of Arizona, argued that his proposal would protect consumers from overreaching internet regulation. But, objectively, the rules were specifically designed to protect consumers by giving them the ability to decide how their private data, including what websites they visit and when, can be used. Flake argued that the rules were preventing consumers from receiving innovative and cost-saving product offerings. In other words, ads from companies that have paid your ISP for your personal information. With ISPs now given carte blanche to use their customers' data pretty much however they want, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, or EFF, put together some highly likely and deeply worrying uses that will now be made of your data, which is selling your location and personal information to marketers, hijacking searches, inserting ads, installing apps on your phone that track you and utilize undetectable tracking codes. It's a sad day. A recent study has revealed that robotics and artificial intelligence could affect almost a third of UK jobs by the 2030s. However, the report from accountancy firm PwC also predicted that the nature of some occupations would change rather than disappear. It added that automation could create more wealth and additional jobs elsewhere in the economy. Jobs in manufacturing and retail were among the most at risk from the new technologies, the report said. The study estimated that 30% of existing jobs in the UK were potentially at a high risk of automation, compared with 38% in the US, 35% in Germany, and 21% in Japan. John Hawksworth, chief economist at PwC, told the BBC that more manual, routine jobs which can effectively be programmed were at the most risk. He said jobs where you've got more of a human touch, like health and education, would be safer. I'm safe. Plenty of Linux users are up in arms about the performance of the OneDrive web app. They say that when accessing Microsoft's cloud storage system in a browser on non-Windows systems, such as Linux or Chrome OS, the service grinds to a barely usable crawl. But when they use a Windows machine on the same internet connection, speedy access resumes. Okay, fair enough. There must be something proprietary in Windows that makes it faster, right? Wrong. When the same users change their browser's user agent string, which is a snippet of text the browser sends to the website describing itself, to the Internet Explorer or Edge, magically their OneDrive access speeds up to normal even though they're on a non-Windows PC. In other words, Microsoft's OneDrive web app appears to slow down deliberately when it appears you're using Linux or some other Windows rival. This has been going on for months, and complaints flared up again this week after netizens decided enough is enough. When gripes about this suspicious slowdown have cropped up previously, Microsoft has coldly reminded people that OneDrive for Business is not supported on Linux, thus the poor performance is to be expected. But remember, when you change the user agent string of your browser on Linux to match IE or Edge, suddenly OneDrive's web code runs fine.
Wow.
Yeah. FedEx is offering customers $5 US to enable Adobe Flash in their browsers. The offer is being made to users of FedEx Office Print, the custom printing tentacle of the transport company. FedEx Office Print lets customers design posters, signs, manuals, banners, and even promotional magnets. But the web interface that lets you order custom prints requires Adobe Flash, the enemy of anyone interested in security and browser stability. And by anyone, we mean Google, which with Chrome 56 will only load Flash if users say they want to use it, and Microsoft, which will stop supporting Flash in its Edge browser when the Windows 10 Creator Update debuts. Mozilla's Firefox will still run, but not for long. The impact of all that Flash hate is clearly that people are showing up at FedEx Office Print without the plugin required to use it. But seeing as they can't use the service without it, FedEx has to make the offer to give each customer $5 off their order if they install Flash. Is this a good idea or a bad idea? Uber has pulled its self-driving cars from the roads after an accident which left one of the vehicles on its side. Pictures posted online showed the car on its right side on an Arizona street next to another badly damaged vehicle. The car, a Volvo SUV, was in self-driving mode at the time of the crash on Friday, Uber said. Thankfully, no one was hurt. A spokeswoman for the local police said the accident occurred when another vehicle failed to yield to the Uber car at a left turn. Uber's self-driving cars always have a human in the driving seat who can take over the controls. The company pulled its self-driving vehicles off the road in Arizona at first, followed by test sites in Pennsylvania and California, all three states where it operated the vehicles. Uber is having a tough go as of late. Amidst reports of poor treatment of employees, a number of executives have quit, including the president, Jeff Jones. Thanks for watching the Category5.tv newsroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all your tech news with a slight Linux bias. And for more free content, be sure to check out our website. From the Category5.tv newsroom, I'm Sasha Dermatis.
Thanks, Sasha. This is Category 5 Technology TV, and you can find our website at category5.tv. Nice to see you again, Jeff.
It's good to be here.
This went smashingly well tonight. Worked out really, really well.
It did.
One of the things that I, as a non-gamer, can appreciate is folks who do a lot of game casting. Now, my broadcast is typically general technology and things like that. But it can sometimes be difficult to now take our RetroPie or take a PlayStation 4 or take even a computer and record that so that it can be broadcast. We run into this with the Pixel Shadow.
Right.
Mindtest.tv. It's one of our shows here at Category 5, and we do a lot of game capture for the Mindtest video game.
But when you install something like Fraps, or when you use screen capture software on the computer that you're actually using to game, it affects your frame rate.
Right.
It requires a lot of hard drive space, a lot of power a lot of times, because you're working with HD video and you're playing the game at the same time as you're trying to record it. It can be brutal. So similarly, we're using a RetroPie tonight, and it's got some games on it, and say we were a broadcaster and we wanted to record our gameplay so that we could later upload it to YouTube, and you see it all the time. How can we do that from something like a RetroPie? It doesn't have enough power to install screen capture software and things like that. We could plug it. We could buy a very expensive capture card. We could plug it into a computer that has enough power to record. But as our guest a couple weeks ago had mentioned, that his computer itself was not powerful enough to... Noah was saying his computer wasn't powerful enough to record directly the gameplay, so we had to buy a separate device. So I started looking around for, hey, how can we kind of utilize this idea here in the studio and make things a lot easier? And that's when I found cat5.tv/agptech. And that's spelled AGPTEK. Now, the capture device from AGPTech is a little different from what Noah had. Noah's device still required that you plug it into a computer and it records to that computer's hard drive. But it takes over some of the CPU rendering and things like that, the stuff that takes your computer and slows it down, and puts it on an external device, giving him more power. I wanted to take it one step further, and instead of doing that, I wanted to see if there was some way to eliminate the need for a computer altogether. To be able to plug something in to a PlayStation 4 without having to affect your gameplay and just push record. Remember when we had VCRs? Yes. And you could just push record anytime you wanted, and you had a recording of what you were doing. So I did find this AGPTech device, and this thing is sweet. It is cheap. Yeah, if you can just lift that bad boy up for me. There we go. And it looks like that. And you didn't know this, but we were actually using this tonight. And what it has is HDMI input from the RetroPie, or it could be anything at all that, that is supported. If you want to plug it into your game console or your computer's HDMI output, it goes into the HDMI input. Then it has an HDMI output to go to the TV. So we're able to have low latency, zero latency, as far as I can tell, gameplay, so that I can still see it up on the TV even when I'm recording. So this device has a USB port, so I can plug in a USB external flash drive or hard drive, or an SD card port. So I've plugged an SD card in here. I've got a Kingston SD card in it's a MicroSD inside of a MicroSD to SD adapter that they provide with it. And all I have to do in order to start recording whatever is on my screen is just push down on that. And you'll see a little red light come on, and it is literally recording right now. So anything that's going on the screen on the computer. So if let's bring up this shot so that you can see what's going on here. And I'll just, I'll exit this game. Let's turn on the controller first. There we go. I'm going to exit the game, and let's just even look at that. So, I can just navigate the menu system here, and there you have it. So I'm actually recording what you're seeing on the screen there to this device over HDMI. The AGPTech device takes it one step further, Jeff, because if you're really into retro gaming, which I am, you want to be able to record from stuff that's not HDMI. You might have an old NES system. You may have a legitimate old system that you want to plug in for retro gaming. This does something truly unique for the price point. It has a breakout cable.
Nice.
This breakout cable gives us both component and composite. Okay?
Look at that.
So we can record from our standard old style devices that are not HD. It takes it one step further, Jeff.
What?
It then converts it in this device as you're recording to HDMI output.
Wow.
So now I can plug my old console into this. I can press record to record my gameplay and have it up on the big screen TV because it's got HDMI output.
Oh my goodness.
And it converts it all for me. It also has a microphone jack so that you can plug in a microphone if you want to do live voiceover. You can do that. My preference is instead to record to a separate device, the audio. I've got a Zoom H4n that I record with the headset mic, and then I add it later so that I can do some editing and things like that. But it also has an audio line output so that you can plug this directly into an audio system or a pair of headphones or something like that. But there you have it. It's the simplest way to do it. I'm only giving you a very, very brief overview of this particular device because there's more to it, but it is very, very simple. It does have a wireless controller that allows you to change between 720p and 1080p recording. It is 30 frames a second. So Noah's had the advantage of it goes up to 60 frames a second.
Right.
For what I do, for anything that I'm going to need this for, I'm very happy with 30 frames a second. So this does something else for us. So now here in the studio, okay, so forgetting about gaming, maybe gaming isn't your thing, what could you use this for? We use, we're looking at a DSLR camera right now. This is a Nikon D5100, and I've hacked the firmware using Nikon Hacker, and I've given us clean HDMI output. But the Nikon cameras and most DSLR cameras are going to give you an option of, do you want to record to SD or do you want to output over HDMI? You can't do both.
Okay.
So everything that I can record from this camera is going to be done on Wirecast, which is great. It does a fantastic job, but I can plug my DSLR camera into the AGP Tech device, then the output from that into Wirecast. I can broadcast in real time just like we do already, but I can push record on this device, and I have an isolated recording of just that camera.
Okay.
So if for some reason something goes wrong and I lose some file, or for example, if I forget to change cameras there and I want to switch it in post-production, I can then edit it and fix that.
Makes sense.
I've got ISO recording inline using this, so I could have one on each camera, and that will give that to me.
Nice.
It could also be used for you know, not just the gaming, but as I say, just a dirt cheap kind of recorder for your camera in broadcast. And I also think about how we'd love to do more in the field recordings, broadcasts, but it requires a very powerful computer. With this, I can record using this device and then have the output from the camera going into a laptop or something like that to do the very low resolution broadcasting, because where it really needs a lot of power is in the record to disk. This will take care of the recording from the camera. I can then post-produce it later.
See, and as you're talking about this, I'm thinking of a very practical and, for me, emotional reason why I would want this. Our oldest, we have like his various videos of him as a baby, and clean version of the birth and all that kind of stuff, but it's on film. So, but the camera does have
video output.
Yeah.
Composite.
And so I haven't, I mean, I still have the tapes, they still work, I view them every once in a while, but it's the paying to convert it that's just
goodness,
friggin' costly.
That's not even what this is intended for. But yeah, you're right. Plug in your camera to this, push record, push play, let it roll, and you're done. It's on an SD card.
And I've just converted all, oh my goodness, my wife's going to be so happy.
Wow. So check these out. cat5.tv/AGP Tech, TEK. All right. And I am incredibly happy with this purchase. I think it's a fantastic little device, and I'm glad that we carry them. Glad that I found it. So check it out. Wow. This has been Category 5 Technology TV. I can't have both of you on the set at the same time. It's like, there, you got to get in here, Jeff. So
I'm extended today.
Yeah, I gave you an extension cord.
I'm extended. Look at that.
I gave him a longer leash. Yeah.
It's about time.
It's all the time that we have, but I hope you had a fun week this week, and I will look forward to seeing you again next week. So take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.